24 hours ago, President Trump was standing on the world stage at the Davos World Economic Forum. His message was peace through strength. But just 12 hours later, something changed. Aboard Air Force One flying back to Washington, Trump confirmed what the Pentagon had already set in motion. We have a massive armada moving in the direction of Iran. We'll see what happens. We are watching them closely. While Trump was shaking hands at Davos, the US military was repositioning warships. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is now stationed in the Arabian Sea. F-15E. Strike Eagles have already landed in Jordan. Stealth fighters are moving into position across the Middle East. This is the largest American military buildup in the region since the 2025 strikes that destroyed Iran's nuclear facilities. Trump says he'd rather not see anything happen, but the forces now surrounding Iran tell a very different story. The Abraham Lincoln was redirected from the Asia-Pacific and is now stationed in the Arabian Sea. It carries cruise missile destroyers, attack submarines, and dozens of strike aircraft. But the Lincoln isn't operating alone. Reports indicate the United States is positioning up to 3 carrier strike groups in the region, an overwhelming concentration of naval firepower not seen since Operation Midnight Hammer, the 2025 strikes that hit Iran's nuclear facilities. On Iran's western border, between 12 and 24 F-15E Strike Eagles have landed at airbases in Jordan. These are precision strike platforms designed to hit targets deep inside enemy territory. And that's just the naval and air assets. The ground buildup is even more extensive. Representative Tim Burchett put it bluntly this week when asked about the situation with Iran. "I hope we shut those bastards down. They kill people, probably 20,000 folks. They treat women like cattle, throw gay folks off buildings. We need to shut them down." That's not diplomatic language. That's the language of a government preparing to act. The question is what Washington is planning behind closed doors, and whether the regime in Tehran understands what's coming. To understand why this build-up matters, you need to understand what happened the last time America positioned forces like this. In 2025, the United States launched Operation Midnight Hammer, a coordinated strike on Iran's nuclear facilities. The operation didn't come out of nowhere. There was a build-up phase first, a pattern that military analysts now recognize as the American strike template. Carrier strike groups repositioned toward the Arabian Sea. F-15E Strike Eagles deployed to bases in Jordan. Stealth fighters moved to air bases across the Middle East. Refueling tankers flowed into the region. Surveillance drones began circling near Iran's coast. And then the strikes came. What we're seeing right now follows that template almost exactly. The Lincoln is in the Arabian Sea. Strike Eagles are in Jordan. Stealth fighters are positioning at regional bases, the same sequence of movements, the same concentration of firepower. But here's what most people don't know. During that 2025 conflict, Iran hit back. Their missiles caused serious damage, serious enough that Israel was forced into a ceasefire after just 12 days. Iran isn't defenseless. They have ballistic missiles that can reach American bases across the region, and they've spent the last year preparing for exactly this scenario. The Pentagon watched what happened in 2025. They know what Iran is capable of, and they're positioning forces anyway. Which raises an obvious question. If Washington knows the risks, what exactly are they planning this time, and how far along are those plans? The naval and air assets are just part of the picture. On the ground, the build-up is even more extensive. HIMARS rocket systems have been airlifted into the region. These are precision artillery platforms that can hit targets over 300 kilometers away. M1, Abrams tanks and Bradley fighting vehicles have followed, transported across more than 12 C-17 and C-5 cargo sorties. That's a significant ground force moving into theater. And then there's the Special Operations presence. Navy SEALs and Delta Force elements are reportedly already in position. These aren't defensive units. They're the forces you deploy when you're planning something precise. But perhaps the most telling part of this build-up is what's arriving to protect American forces. Additional Patriot and THAAD anti-missile batteries are deploying across the region. These systems exist for one purpose: to intercept incoming missiles. Washington isn't just preparing to strike, they're preparing for Iran to strike back. That tells you how serious this is. So what exactly is being planned? US officials have confirmed to Al Jazeera and Reuters that strike planning is now in advanced stages. This isn't contingency planning sitting in a drawer, this is active operational preparation. The Pentagon has conducted secret exercises simulating airstrikes on Iran, wargaming the scenarios, testing the plans, working through how Tehran might respond. President Trump has been personally briefed on strike options. According to reports, those options include targeting Iranian leadership directly, what analysts call a potential decapitation strike, as well as hitting key infrastructure, the facilities that keep Iran's military and economy running. Trump's instruction to his planners has been clear. He wants decisive plans, not limited responses, not symbolic gestures, decisive action. Coordination with Israel is already underway. Jerusalem has requested additional time to bolster its defenses before any American action. That request is significant. Both Washington and Jerusalem expect Iranian retaliation. Israel wants to be ready when it comes. The forces are in position. The planning is advanced. The simulations have been run. Behind closed doors, the machinery of military action is clearly moving. But publicly, Trump is playing a very different game. Trump's public statements are walking a deliberate line. Speaking aboard Air Force One, he confirmed the military buildup while refusing to say what happens next. We're watching Iran. We have a lot of ships going that direction just in case. We have a massive fleet heading in that direction, and maybe we won't have to use it. We'll see. When reporters pressed him on what steps he might take, his answer was calculated. Let's see what happens. I don't want to detail the steps I might take. That ambiguity is deliberate. Tehran knows American forces are in position. They know planning is advanced, but they don't know exactly when the United States might act or exactly what form that action might take. That uncertainty is part of the strategy. Trump's earlier actions sent clearer signals. Before Davos, he tweeted, "Help is on its way," directly to Iranian protesters. He cancelled planned negotiations with Tehran. The message to Iran's leadership was direct. Diplomacy is off the table unless the regime makes serious concessions. And it's not just the White House. Congressional support for action against Iran appears strong. Representative Tim Burchett made that clear when he said, "I hope we shut those bastards down. They kill people, probably 20,000 folks. They treat women like cattle, throw gay folks off buildings. We need to shut them down." That's not diplomatic language. That's a congressman calling for the regime to be brought down, and he's not alone. The appetite in Washington for decisive action against Tehran is clearly growing. Trump's approach combines two things: maximum military pressure with maximum strategic ambiguity. Iran's leadership is watching American warships move into position. They're reading reports about advanced strike planning. They're hearing Trump refuse to rule anything out. And they're trying to figure out whether this is a bluff. Trump says he'd rather not see anything happen. But Tehran isn't just listening to words, they're watching actions. And their response has been anything but diplomatic. They've started naming targets. Iran is not staying quiet. Tehran has publicly threatened that if the United States strikes, American bases across the region will not be safe. They've named specific targets. Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar is at the top of that list. It's one of the most important American military hubs in the Middle East, and Iran targeted it during the 2025 conflict. Those threats are being taken seriously. Non-essential personnel have already been evacuated from Al Udeid. This isn't a routine rotation, it's a precaution. The United Kingdom is also relocating troops from the base. Both Washington and London are preparing for the possibility that Iran follows through on its threats. Ex-US Colonel Daniel Davis has warned that the United States and Iran are closer to open conflict than most people realize. In a recent interview, he laid out the risks. Tens of thousands of American troops are stationed at bases across the region, many of them vulnerable. Iran's missiles proved during the 2025 conflict that they can cause serious damage. If this escalates, Davis warns, it could get messy, spread across the region, and be hard to control. The Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of the world's oil flows, sits within range of Iranian missiles. A wider conflict could send energy prices surging and destabilize the entire Middle East. Iran has also made clear that it has backup plans and contingencies. The United States and Israel have a history of targeting Iranian leadership. Tehran knows this. Any strike would be met with responses that have already been prepared. The risks of escalation are real. But here's the other side of the equation. Trump's pressure is already producing results. Iran had planned mass executions of 837 protesters. After Trump warned of severe retaliation, those executions were cancelled. The regime blinked. Deterrence through military posture can work. And that's the calculation Washington is now making. The regime is already under pressure. Protests continue across the country. The economy is struggling. International isolation is deepening. A government facing threats from outside and inside is a government running out of options. Iran can threaten retaliation. But with 3 carrier strike groups positioning, Strike Eagles on their western border, special forces in theater, and strike planning in advanced stages, threats may not be enough to change what's coming. The USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is in the Arabian Sea. Up to 3 carrier groups are being positioned. F-15 E-Strike Eagles are stationed in Jordan. Stealth fighters are at bases across the Middle East. HIMARS, tanks, and armored vehicles have been airlifted into theater. Navy SEALs and Delta Force are in the region. Patriot and THAAD batteries are protecting American positions. Strike planning is in advanced stages. The Pentagon has run simulations. Trump has been briefed on options, including targeting Iranian leadership. This is the same pattern that preceded Operation Midnight Hammer in 2025. Carrier groups repositioning, Strike Eagles deploying, special forces flowing into theater, and then strikes. Iran has threatened to hit back. They've named American bases as targets. But the United States is positioning overwhelming force while knowing exactly what Iran is capable of, and they're moving anyway. The regime now faces pressure from 2 directions. From outside, the most powerful military in the world is within striking distance. From inside, a population that continues to rise against the government that oppresses them. 24 hours ago, Trump stood at Davos talking about peace. Now American warships are circling Iran, strike plans are being finalized, and Washington is preparing for whatever comes next. Trump says, "We'll see what happens."